Hello, good morning. My name is Bayu Adi Laksono Putra. Today I will present my midterm essay titled Energy Poverty and its Microeconomic Impacts in Eastern Indonesia. We will explore how limited access to reliable and affordable electricity affect household welfare, microeconomic development in the country's eastern region provinces. To begin, let's first we define what we mean by energy poverty. Energy poverty is not only about the availability of electricity, it is much more than that. It includes the lack of access to high quality, reliable energy, which is essential to improve living standard. This limitation becomes a major barrier to productivity and creates long-term development challenge, as highlighted by Casillas and Kamen in 2010. It's also very important. Energy poverty is also a multidimensional problem. It's not just an infrastructure. It also affects the health outcomes, education opportunities, economic productivity, and even social mobility. It's also studied by Adom et al. In 2021 and Fomin and Kimura in 2019. They confirmed that these wide-ranging impacts so energy poverty is not a narrow technical issue, it is a deep developmental issue. Okay, continue. Although Indonesia right now have a national electrification ratio reaching 99.83%, but this figure or this value is not level in the same overall area. If we look closer, several provinces, particularly in eastern Indonesia, such as Papua and Nusa Tenggara, and maybe some other region, still have an electrification ratio far below 80%. For the example, in the Papua Tengah, it's about 51.85%, and Papua Pegunungan is 16.75%. These gaps also showing serious energy inequality between western and eastern regions. While the western part enjoy nearly universal access, many remote and rural areas in the eastern part is still left behind. The situation creates not only developmental challenge but also injustice in access to basic service and economic opportunities. Okay, now, so why this can be happening in Indonesia? So after we analyze, there are three main challenges in improving the electrification ratio, especially in the eastern Indonesia. The first factor is low population density. Eastern Indonesia makes up about 20% of Indonesian land area, but only 4% of its population. And also, the second factor is challenging geographic terrain. Papua and other provinces have mountainous landscapes and dense forests, which significantly increase the cost of building and maintaining energy infrastructure. And the next one is Indonesia is an archipelago country with thousands of scattered islands. Many of these require isolated off-grid solutions that are more expensive than connecting the existing grid from the existing system. These three factors, low density, tough terrain, and scattered island, create serious infrastructure challenges that go beyond technical capacity. Solving energy poverty in this region requires innovative and context-sensitive strategies. And now we deep dive into the socio-economic challenge of Eastern Indonesia, Papua, or in any region in Eastern Indonesia have a poverty rate about 26%, which is nearly 4 times higher than the province in Java that have poverty rates below 7%. Additionally, Papua ranked in the 38 out of 38 provinces in Indonesia as a Human Development Index reflecting deep regional disparities. This survey result from BPS showing that the socioeconomic gaps are further worsened by the energy poverty. For example, there are significant seasonal fluctuation in income and employment, poor market access in across region due to the limited transportation and logistic infrastructure, and also limited value-added opportunities arise from the lack of reliable energy, which restrict economic diversification and productivity. This shows how energy poverty not only reflects but also reinforces poverty and underdevelopment in this region. The socioeconomic structure in Eastern Indonesia is shaped by a complex web of intercorrelated challenges, many of which are both causes and consequences of energy poverty. These factors are geographic isolation, that many communities are located in the remote and mountainous areas with minimal infrastructure connectivity, making energy delivery very difficult. Low population density, dispersed settlement make it hard to achieve economic of scale for infrastructure project, particularly electrification, transportation, and many others. High poverty rates, limited purchasing power means households often cannot afford alternative energy sources. And also a fragile economic structure. The economy in these areas tends to be subsistence-based with limited diversification, reducing resilience and the ability to absorb external shock. This interlocking factor shows that the addressing energy poverty in Eastern Indonesia requires integrated policies that go beyond not only just infrastructure but also touching the economic, social, and institutional dimension. And the next chapter is about macroeconomic analysis and in the impacts of the energy poverty. Uh, According to Tumiwa, in 2022, the cost of supply of per 1 kilowatt hour of electricity in Papua can be more than double compared to in Java, maybe in triple. This creates a structural imbalance. Demand is growing, but the supply remains underdeveloped. The electrification rate are still below 80% in several Papua provinces. Many villages experience electricity only 6 to 12 hours a day, creating unstable and predictable access. As a result, households rely on diesel generator or battery-powered lights, which are expensive and very unsustainable and very unreliable. This creates a persistent gap. The rising demand, the demand graph is rising, but the are not met with adequate supply, or maybe the infrastructure of electricity is not rising as the demand uh, forcing households into coping mechanism that increase their financial burden while limiting the development. From microeconomic perspective, households in energy poor region are forced into difficult trade-off. Consumers typically aim to maximize utility under budget constraint, but here the constraints go beyond money. Infrastructure is lacking. So, what are the household choices? The first one is use costly and inefficient substitutes like diesel, or reduce electricity consumption, limiting productivity and comfort, or maybe sacrificing other basic needs like food, education, or healthcare to afford the uh, costly alternative energy. Energy poverty isn't just about lacking electricity, it reflects deeper systemic issues that limit how families live, work, and plan for the future. This structural barrier weaken household resilience, reduce opportunities, and trap communities in cycles of hardship. Another critical impact is on education. Electricity is essential not just for the lighting, but for digital access and learning continuity. Without the electricity, children cannot study after dark. They miss out the digital learning opportunities. They struggle to complete homework or prepare the exam. As Mills in 2016 and Femina Kimura in 2019 observed, schools in Southeast Asia without electricity have up to 20% lower attendance and performance. In Eastern Indonesia, this lack of infrastructure perpetuates intergenerational inequality in education. Let's now move to small and micro enterprise or UMKM. Many of these businesses rely on electricity for daily operation like food processing, refrigeration, or lighting. But in unreliable electricity environment, these face tough choices. They should install costly generator, limit operating hours, or reducing productivity, or avoid energy-intensive activities altogether. This drives up cost per unit, reduce competitiveness, and discourage business expansion. Study by Nish et al. In 2011 even called this one of the main barriers to inclusive rural economic growth. For example, the image was in the left part is a typical of UMKM in Papua producing a handcrafted souvenir, an activity that requires minimal energy but also generates low profit margin, reflecting limited economic growth. Uh, after 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 understanding the macroeconomic impact of energy poverty, it becomes clear that solving this issue requires both structural and multidimensional solutions, spanning infrastructure, finance, and governance. These are the outline for the strategic approach to address energy poverty, particularly in Eastern Indonesia. The first one is infrastructure and grid investment. We propose prioritizing semi-urban areas in Papua and any other region with growing demand density using joint initiative between the government and PLN to expand the grid efficiency. Efficiently. And the second, energy financing and subsidies, since upfront costs are of major barrier, especially for low-income household, we need microfinancing program and subsidies for solar system and appliance. Third, we can launch the renewable and decentralized solution program like Super Sun. We can deploy solar PV-based system to remote areas that are too costly to reach with the traditional grids. Finally, cross-sector planning, we should integrate electrification with school and clinic construction to ensure public service like education and healthcare can function from the start. In terms of policy implementation, our roadmap span from short, medium, and long-term action. Uh, From the short-term interview, we involve distributing solar kits to the most remote household, providing targeted subsidies for fuel and battery replacement, promoting mobile renewable energy units with performance-based incentive. In medium term, we focus on expanding grid access in cluster demand zones, establishing sustainable decentralized energy system, developing local skills to operate and maintaining the system. And in the long term, we must align national planning with the energy development nexus, uh, reform rural energy tariff to maintain both affordability and sustainability, strengthen governance and institutional capacity at local level. These strategies aim to not only increase access but ensure it's sustainable, inclusive, and empowering. And next, we highlight the key finding from our analysis and draw conclusion on how to move forward in addressing energy poverty in Eastern Indonesia. First, we observe supply and demand imbalance. Remote areas suffer from a mismatch between their energy needs and the infrastructure available to meet them, leading to chronic shortage and high costs. Second, resource allocation constraint. Households are forced to divert spending from essential like nutrition, healthcare, and education to basic energy needs, often through expensive alternatives like diesel generator. And the next one, we found a significant UMKM productivity losses, inconsistent electricity access drives up operating costs for micro and small enterprise, limiting their ability to scale or innovate. And finally, market value pattern. Geographical isolation and logistical costs hinder efficient energy distribution, making it unprofitable for the private sector to serve these communities. To address this challenge, we propose several key strategies. The first one is hybrid electrification strategies, a combination of centralized grid expansion and decentralized renewable solutions tailored to local conditions is essential to reach underserved communities efficiently. The second one is innovative financing. We blend finance, impact investment, and community co-ownership can reduce reliance on state budgets and enhance project sustainability. Integrated development and institutional coordination. Electrification must go hand in hand with the education and healthcare infrastructure. Coordination between PLN and government institutions is a key to multiplying development impacts. Subsidy reform, transitioning from high blanket subsidies to targeted need-based subsidies will better support household affordability and hence the resilience of UMKM in marginalized sector. Okay, solving energy poverty problem in Eastern Indonesia is not just a technical challenge; it's a moral and developmental responsibility. We should treat energy access not merely as infrastructure, but also as a foundation for opportunity and inclusive growth. Uh, Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.